Okay, there we go. So now we have a recording started as well, just because we will have a recording of this show to send out along with the recipe at the end of this. I'll be sharing my screen now. We'll be giving it just a couple minutes here, though, while we wait for folks to come on in. Except that my screen is wrong again now, too. Zoom is not on my side today, folks. All right, everyone, welcome. Thank you for joining us. We're going to have, I'm guessing, some stragglers just as we have hit the hour now. So I'll give it just a couple minutes before getting started. There we go. I also think that this is such a good recipe for like this time of year, and especially like going into Thanksgiving, like we had talked about before, like this fall break season is just perfect time.
It's a very like comforting like winter dish, especially because of how like filling and yeah, how filling it is.
Mhm.
I was so excited. I was so excited.
Absolutely, it's really exciting stuff. So we have the recording going here, so folks can always come back and watch a little bit more if they miss the beginning here. But we'll go ahead and get started with our show today. So thank you so much for coming for our second episode of the International Cooking Show this semester. My name is Elizabeth Workman. I am a GA here in the International and Area Studies Library at the University of Illinois, and I'm hosting the series right now. And this is, if you've seen previous versions of the show, this will be very similar in the setup. I'm going to spend some time here at the beginning talking about library resources and a brief culinary history of the food that we'll be talking about. And then our guest chef, who is a student at the University of Illinois, will be giving us a demonstration of making Ukrainian recipe for Ukrainian pierogi. So if you, again, have seen previous versions of this show, it's been going on for a little while now. It got started in 2021 during COVID as we were all looking for an opportunity to gather online over our shared love of food and culinary history and culture. So it's continuing now just as strong to celebrate the diversity and the breadth of skills and backgrounds of our students and community around the University of Illinois. And as we're moving through this, I just want to remind us of a couple of things. Again, if you've been here before, these quotes are probably familiar, but really we want to focus on some unifying factors of food in this show, because as Guy Fieri says in this quote, cooking is all about people, and food is maybe the only universal thing that really has the power to bring people together. And the intention of the show being to showcase different dishes from people around the world and come together to share the stories and the cultures that go along with them is something we want to make sure we're keeping in mind throughout this series. And in turn, also from Jiro Ono, the renowned sushi chef, in order to make delicious food, you have to eat delicious food. So these recipes are an opportunity for you to continue trying and getting better at all kinds of different cuisines and expanding your own palate. Now, there are right now 13 participants on this call. I'm sure there will be more, and I'm sure that we all have varying levels of familiarity to this dish. So I just want to take a little moment here to give a brief overview of terminology related to the dish and the recipes that we'll be talking about, because there are so many versions of pierogi, pierogi, and other things like that in Eastern European cuisine. So the English word pierogi that I will be using today, as I am, unfortunately, English is my only language and I am not skilled with accents and pronouncing other words like that, comes from the Polish pierogi, which is the plural of pierog, but the generic term for filled dumplings. And in English, we tend to use pierogi to refer to the singular and the plural of the dish, although in the Midwest, people are prone to adding an S to pluralize it to pierogies, which just gets further and further from the original word itself. And it's so amazing to me looking at this list on here at the broad East European cuisine and how common dumplings are and all of the different, always wonderful and like similar but distinctive ways that dumplings have influenced and developed in different cultures. And all of the terms in this slide and the countries they come from are in some capacity considered pierogi when I looked into the rabbit hole of the food history around this. And there are so many kinds of fillings and toppings, methods of cooking, and other things that go into making these different. And at times, because these are so steeped in tradition, they are oftentimes they can cause controversy too. You know, everyone has preferred recipes and ways of doing things, but although it might have come from so many of these different places, now there are so many different versions of it, it now largely, pierogi as a word refers to largely Eastern European styles dumplings of varying origins with these slight differences, sort of as a category. And then also, I'm sure we'll hear more about this later, but many folks in Ukraine do refer to, as we advertise the show today, as Ukrainian pierogi for the dish, but many others will refer to it as varniki. I know that is incorrect. But it is varied in terms of what it's referred to, and also like just by region oftentimes and by the groups themselves. Also, I've heard in some parts of Russia it is called this as well, while the pierogi of Russia is referred to as the actual pelmeni for the word. And there's also, like in Lithuania and some other countries, meat or potato-based dumplings are usually referred to as this koldunai, I believe, sorry. And then in Slovakia, some refer to these also as the more familiar sounding pierogi. So this is just an example again of some of the things that I found falling down that rabbit hole of culinary history that I would encourage you if you're familiar with other versions of this dish or like adjacent pierogi, adjacent Eastern European dumplings and what you may call them or have heard them referred to, please let us know in the chat for the diversity and breadth of all of it. And then before we get into the cooking demonstration today, I also want to take a bit of time to tell you about some resources from the library related to Ukrainian culture and cuisine. And then so you can take advantage of these resources, especially as part of the community or as part of the U of I system. There are plenty of print resources related to food and culture, but these cookbooks on the screen here, Budmo by Anna Voloshina, who is a Ukrainian-born chef and author, is a physical cookbook that you could check out if you are here at the U of I and you want to visit Funk Ace's library. I believe they have it in a pop-up collection at this time. It includes classic recipes, more traditional recipes, and then also ones with a more modern twist. And then the Mamushka cookbook, I know a lot of folks today may not be physically in the Urbana-Champaign area. This is one that is available online. It has over 100 recipes from Ukraine and Eastern Europe. And this focuses on things that are more steeped in tradition and includes a lot of personal recipes and anecdotes from the author. There's also this wonderful page from the Ukrainian Language Library Guide, which has a lot of resources for intended for students that are in their first year of study of the Ukrainian language. But this page here on cuisine includes some other recipes and good fun facts, interesting tidbits you may enjoy, as well as some wonderful digital exhibits and more information about the Slavic, East European, and Eurasian collections and services from the International and Area Studies. If you follow that link, it will just take you to the main page that I would encourage you to explore more, be curious about this topic, what the library has, or how you might be able to learn more or attend more events. And then for those of you that are local, there are some places in the Urbana-Champaign community to shop for recipes, for ingredients related to this recipe. Unfortunately, not a lot of stores in here intended or marketed as Eastern European grocers, but these places should have things that you need. And I wanted to also point out the Common Ground Food Co-op is a good place to find ingredients, but additionally, especially considering that food insecurity is an issue on so many college campuses and that their food prices are continuing to increase nationally, I wanted to point out that Common Ground has a food assistance program that I would encourage you to look at more information online if you're interested. Or if you're a student, there is a discount for students on Sundays if you did not know about that and you're interested in utilizing it. And then one last thing before handing this over to our guest chef, I will be sending out the posting to this recording if you'd like to watch it back, as well as the recipe that our chef will be sharing after the episode. You can also follow this link to go to our YouTube channel, subscribe, view our last month's episode of the show, and then see future updates as well. You'll also be getting the link, but if you're interested in connecting more, here's our YouTube. If no one has any questions or concerns about this information, feel free to put anything in the chat if you'd like to know more about the library. I'll go ahead and I'll be handing this over to our guest chef, Dmytro, when you're ready.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Hi, my name is Dmytro Olyva, or in Ukrainian, Dmytro Olyva, and I'll be your guest chef today, teaching you guys how to make Ukrainian pierogi. In a lot of parts of Ukraine, the recipe or pierogi is called vareniki as well. That's more so in the central slash eastern part of Ukraine, where there's a lot more influence from Russian culture from like the Soviet era. My family is from the Lvivska Oblast, or the like Lviv state, and so our family is more so there's a lot more like Polish influence in our like region of Ukraine. So our family calls them pierogi or pierogi, which is like what most people know them as, which is like the more popular name for it. But there is a little bit of a difference depending on where you're from in Ukraine. So yeah, for the remainder of the recipe, I'll be calling them pierogi because that's kind of what I'm used to. But yeah, to get started with, there's three kind of components in the recipe. You need to make the filling, which is potato and cheese in this case, but there's a bunch of different kinds in Ukrainian culture. I can kind of get into that more so later when there's like kind of a lull in the recipe, but we need to make the filling, the dough itself, which is just like simple, like enriched kind of like dough, and then toppings. For this recipe, we're going to be doing golden onions, bacon, and sour cream. Sour cream is like the thing in Ukrainian culture. Like it's on everything. It's like, so good, so good. Okay, so to get started with, the longest component of the recipe is kind of the onions. So I'm gonna be doing that. All you need to do is really kind of like dice it. And what I like to do for onions is to kind of take it, take the pole, like the bottom and the top, and kind of slice it down along the like north to south pole, and then take the onion on the side, slice the bit of the top off kind of like that, split that to the side, do the same with the other half. There you go. And then once you have the top peeled off, it's a lot easier to get the outer layer of skin. Typically when I'm doing it, I'll take off like the first layer of the actual like flesh itself, just because it's a lot easier that way and it saves on time. If you're like really trying to nitpick, you can always keep that part on, but for the sake of convenience and time, I like to just take it all off. So there you go. Bam, bam, bam. I'm just gonna do that to all my onions. So golden onions are a really, really important part of the recipe, almost as important as the pierogi themselves, because that's where you get a lot of flavor. I personally love onions. They're like one of my favorite ingredients to cook with. And in this recipe, it's like very, very important to get like them nice and golden, and they're like super, super good. So that's why whenever you're making this, you want to use like as many as you physically can. Every time my mom cooks them, she'll use like 3, 4 big onions, and even then, they'll only be enough for like half of however much pierogi we ever make. Never enough, quite literally, never enough. Okay. And then I got one more. I'm gonna put these to the side in this little bowl real quick. And yeah, so Ukrainian pierogi are like quintessential to Eastern European cuisine as well as Ukrainian. It's very, very diverse in terms of which culture like takes pierogi to like be their like theirs. Polish people like to say that it's made by them. Ukrainian people like to say it's made by them. Russian people like to say it's made by them. Basically, every culture tries to like say that it's their thing. Me being Ukrainian, I'm a little biased. I'm gonna say that we came up with it, but I don't actually know who officially like takes claim to that. Also, see like this one onion right here has like a little bit of like a brown spot that you can honestly just kind of like slice off. There's no need to get rid of like the whole onion if you see a little spot. Honestly, like any vegetable, if you ever see like a blemish or like a little bruise on it, it's totally cool to just like slice it off and then use the rest of it as normal. Try to minimize waste when it comes to food as much as possible. That's like something I really hold true. But getting into it, to slice the onion, you kind of want to take your knife and start like by angling it, kind of like this, making your way towards the center, doing like nice slices. Also, when you're holding like a knife, you want to kind of like pinch it on the side like that, thumb on that side. This way you kind of like choke up on the knife and it gets easier to hold. So that's how I like to hold it. It might be uncomfortable for some people, so do what makes the most sense for you and how you feel like holding a knife, but this is how I prefer to do it. And then with your other hand, you kind of like want to like curl it. Yes, thick slices, like whatever size honestly works for you, but I like to do like slightly like larger dice. There we go. Some people also like to do like horizontal cuts like that. Unless I'm doing a very fine dice, I don't really notice that it matters that much. But yeah. And then when you kind of at the end of the onion, like this, I'll fold it to its side and then try to get as much of the onion as possible, and then take the little nub, toss that, bam, and then kind of keep going with the rest of the onion. Yeah. What else? So going back to like pierogi and their origin, it's been like kind of been being made for like thousands of years. It all comes from like Eastern European / like Slavic climate where potatoes are very easily grown. A lot of Ukrainian culture is stemmed in flour and potatoes. Flour is really, really important to Ukraine because we are like the #1 exporter and producer of like wheat in the world. Also, there's a lot of steam coming because this water is boiling that I got going on the side. But yeah, so flour is extremely important to Ukrainian culture. The Ukrainian flag has like 2 colors. It's like blue on top, yellow on the bottom. And the symbolism of that is a nice clear blue sky and yellow for wheat, actually. So Ukrainian flag is quite literally like happy days, clear sky, and wheat. Also, blue is to symbolize like peace and like unity. So that's part of this too, like why that color was chosen as well. So yeah.
And
What
if I could
else?
take just a minute to interject here, I know I put it in the chat, but if you have any questions or concerns for the chef too, while he's going, feel free to just put them in the chat, and I will chime in throughout the process. We'll look down and see it. I also want to just point out a suggestion that is a great cookbook as well, supporting relief efforts in Ukraine, titled Babusia's Kitchen, referring to this recipe by the other name that we talked about. There's a link for that in the chat if anyone is interested.
Bam, bam, bam. Awesome.
Now, do you speak Ukrainian with your family?
I do actually, yeah. Growing up, I pretty much only spoke English, only spoke Ukrainian with my family, because they are both immigrants from Ukraine. They moved here when I was in my mom still. She was 7 months pregnant with me when we moved here, and growing up, I lived in the Ukrainian village in like Chicagoland area, part of West Chicago, and I went to a Ukrainian school called St. Nicholas Catholic School, and I like pretty much like grew up speaking Ukrainian, being surrounded in Ukrainian culture, and very, very close relation to my people. And so I'm very, very grateful for my family for having like really kept us within the culture itself rather than trying to like assimilate as fast as possible. I really value having that kind of upbringing. And so yeah, I speak that with my parents. They like know English like fairly well, but when I'm at home, it's like only English. During like holidays, I'm gonna move the camera as well. But during holidays, I like to kind of like speak Ukrainian with my family, and then whenever my siblings and I talk, that's when we kind of like switch over to English. It's kind of fun because like the conversation will like naturally go between the two, depending on like what we're actually like talking about. Some words I only know in one language or the other, so depends on the conversation and what we're talking about. But yeah, So now we have a pan going. You want to preheat that to about medium high. For the sake of the recipe, I'm gonna kind of do like medium high just so it like cooks faster. Um, you saw that I put oil in the pan while it's still cold. You can either do that or you can wait until the pan's already preheated before you add the oil. Kind of preference, really. I find that it kind of is easier to tell when the pan is hot enough if the oil is added when it's cold. If you're kind of looking for the pan to be, or the oil to be like really like um fluid and kind of like shimmery, and that's kind of how you know when the pan's hot enough. I also like to like hold my hand above the pan for a good feel of that. But yeah, so while the pan's kind of preheating and we got the onions kind of ready, now we can get started on the dough. For this, we're gonna have a nice medium bowl, and we're gonna need flour, egg, and milk and water. For the recipe, it calls for, I believe, I wrote this at like midnight 2 days ago or something, but for the flour or like for the dough itself, you're gonna need 3 cups of flour. So I got a little measuring cup, and then bam. For measuring out flour, I would recommend taking like a nice like knife, having some stuff around. Bam, bam. You're gonna have your flour. So you take like a nice scoop of flour. It's got like a little mound over it, and then I like to level it off with the knife, get the right amount, and then just add it to the bowl. With flour, you kind of want to make sure that it's like nice and like light and fluffy when you're scooping it, because otherwise you can get very different amounts of flour per like cup. So don't like press it down or anything. Kind of just like keep it like nice and like light. If you want, you can also sift your flour. For like most doughs, I personally don't do that, mainly because it just takes time, and I don't really see a big difference in that. But yeah, so 3 cups of flour.
And is that specifically, does that say it's bread flour?
Yes. So this
Okay,
is bread flour over here. For most things, you guys can probably use like all-purpose, and that's totally cool. I'm just out of that right now, so I'm using bread, but all-purpose is
gotcha,
perfect.
gotcha.
And
Thank you.
then we have milk. So this is half a cup of milk, half a cup of water, and to that, I'm gonna take an egg, crack that into the um, milk water mix, and then take a fork, mix that up, kind of, there you go. I like to like poke the yolk a little bit before I got started. Move this out of the way. Take the yolk, kind of mix it up. You can use a whisk, you can use a fork. I like fork because it's easier, smaller, less stuff to clean. Whenever I'm cooking, I try to minimize dishes. That's something I've kind of like learned throughout the years. Like if you're the one cooking, you're probably gonna also be the one cleaning. So make less work for yourself by using smaller utensils, less bowls, whatever you can to kind of minimize on dishes. Another big thing that I've learned is to try to do dishes like as you're cooking as well. If there's like a small like slow period in the recipe where you're waiting on stuff to like fry or for like something to be like baking in the oven, that's a good opportunity and time to kind of use that downtime to like clean a little bit. That way, once you're done and you're like sitting down to eat, there's not a huge pile of dishes waiting for you in the sink. So that is nice and mixed. Also, real quick, I want to show you guys I'm gonna switch the camera over. So this is the pan with the oil. It's like very fluid. It's kind of shimmery. And so now to that, I'm gonna add the onions. So over here, we got the onions and then the pan. I like to use one of these bench scrapers. They're really nice because they're very like thin, and so they kind of like scrape very easily. So this is good for like dough. But also it's like very flat and like large surface areas, so it's easy to transfer stuff. So if you guys are looking to cook a lot, highly recommend getting one of these. They make stuff a lot easier in the kitchen. And yeah, so massive amount of onions going in the pan, keeping it over like medium high heat. You want to make sure that they don't get like too brown, kind of like dark brown, but you want them like kind of like a golden. Two of the onions with oil. I'm gonna add a nice big pinch of salt. This will make them kind of like get all the water out, sweat them faster, because of osmosis. I don't know if you guys know like biology and stuff, but if you add salt, it kind of like pulls out water. Not gonna get too into the science because like that's a lot for 9 in the morning or 10 in the morning, but yeah. So onions are going, give them a good old mix. Oh, and then one thing about the salt. Bam. I like to use kind of like this Morton kosher salt. I find that it's very like nice and coarse. There you guys can kind of see the grains. I find that that is like really, really good for being able to like pinch a lot and it's easier to transfer. And it's also like because of how coarse it is, you can kind of see how much salt you're adding to the dish kind of more easily, and you can gauge how salty things are going to be. I've been using Morton Kosher for like upwards of 8 years now, and I cannot recommend it more. If you guys are looking to get salt, look to get that, honestly. Some people like to use like table salt, which is like really, really fine. Some people like to use Diamond Crystal. It's another good one. That one's what I used when I was working at a restaurant for like baking and stuff. And then also going on salt tangent. What's the word? I'm gonna talk while I make the dough. So this is the flour, this is the egg, milk, and water mix. Add that to the bowl. Bam, bam. And then take wooden spoon, give it a mix. You kind of want to form like kind of a shaggy dough first, and then from there, an actual smooth dough will happen as well. Going back to the salt tangent, there's another kind of salt called Malden's flaky salt. It's like really, really coarse, very, very like flaky, and that's what I'd like to use if I was to kind of like season. What's the word? Season or garnish a dish after I'm done like cooking it. That's like right at the end when you're serving the dish. That's really nice for like making it look very like fancy. You can do that for like a steak, any protein, or like a salad, whatever you guys want. But just to throw that out there in case y'all didn't know. But yeah. So dough is
I
nice
feel
and
like
mixed.
the next rabbit hole I'm falling down is going to be about salt now.
Yeah, salt is really, really cool. I wrote an entire like report on it for one of my engineering classes. They were like, name your favorite chemical. And I was like, salt. It's like really cool. Yeah, you can use it as like an antiseptic, like for dressing wounds. It can be used for preserving like foods by like drying out moisture, like beef jerky, stuff like that. In chemistry, it's used a lot for like controlling or like for reactions. You can use that to like pull moisture out of something because the salt like likes to bind to water. Very cool. Salt is an awesome chemical. Okay, so dough is mixed. It's like this nice like shaggy dough. Not you don't have to mix it too much to make it smooth. For now, I'm gonna like let it sit for maybe about like 5 minutes, get it nice and like hydrated. And while that's going, we can take that time to make the potato filling. Bam. So put the dough to the side, and I'm gonna put the flour away. Another good tip when you're cooking is to kind of, when you use an ingredient, after you're done using it, kind of put it away, clears up your area, makes things a little bit more manageable and less clutter or less mess to have to do at the end. So for the filling, we're gonna have potato, which I've already done ahead of time, Ukrainian farmer's cheese, and cheddar cheese. And then the onions that we're doing on the pan right there, we'll add those later as well. They're gonna take like a hot minute, so for the sake of time, we might not be able to get them in the filling itself, but they'll be put on after they're like baked or after they're boiled. So that is good to go. So for the potatoes, I've done these ahead of time, but if you're looking to do them like now, or like when you're actually making them, I recommend washing them, peeling them, and then dicing them. You can do like a nice, very large like dice to them, and then add them to water, cold, and then bring the pot with the potatoes and some salt to boil. You want to do the, what's it called? The, like, boil the potatoes like while it's still hot or while it's still cold, because the inside center of like the potato will cook at the same time as the outside that way. A little pro tip on that. Also, real quick, for the farmer's cheese, Prairie Fruits Farm and Creamery does a very nice farmer's cheese locally. So if you're looking to get ingredients for making this at home, highly recommend getting some from Common Ground. Harvest Market also has that. I believe County might, don't quote me on that. Yeah, so Prairie Fruits Farm and Creamery has some very nice cheeses. They do a lot of goat cheese as well. So if you're looking to buy some very high quality stuff, I highly recommend checking them out. They're really, really nice. So we added the potato, the farmer's cheese. We also have sharp cheddar. I like sharp because it adds more flavor, but choose any kind of like yellow cheese that you guys like. In the recipe, I believe I call for like 2 cups, which is like, I'd say like most of a bag. So I'm gonna add like, I'd say like 2/3 of a bag of cheese. This one is 8 ounces. So whatever that is to you, measure with your heart when you're cooking. If you're baking, that's when you kind of want to be like a little bit more precise with like measuring stuff out, like spoons and stuff or weight. But for cooking, it's kind of like based all on vibes. It's purely vibes, honestly. But yeah, so we have both cheeses, potato, and then to that, I'm gonna add a little bit of salt and pepper. I did those in the wrong order, but yeah, you know what I mean. So nice big pinch. Here. Oh, there we go. So I like to do kind of like 4-finger pinch, nice big amount. That way you get good amount of salt. I'm gonna start with 1 just to make sure it's not too salty. With cooking, I'd say the biggest tip or biggest like skill to learn is really how to taste things. Whenever you're cooking, you only will know what the dish tastes like if you actually taste it. So don't be afraid to, throughout the dish, kind of like taste every component, whether that's like the filling, the dough. Don't recommend eating raw dough though. Don't do that. But like taste every component of it as it's going to know if it needs more of salt, more seasoning, more whatever. That's kind of like the biggest tip I have. Don't be afraid to try things before the recipe's over, because you can always add stuff, you can't remove stuff. So better to like build on the flavor, especially with salt. And so got the bowl. I'm gonna take kind of just like rubber spatula over here. Highly recommend getting one of these guys. This bowl is a little claustrophobic right now, but I'm gonna like kind of use like stabbing motions to kind of like mix it in initially and do the rest when it's kind of like more mixed in. So what else can I talk about? Oh yeah. So for pierogi, I'm currently doing a potato and cheese filling, which is like kind of like what's the most classic version of it. It's really nice. You can do different kinds of cheeses. Typically, like when I do, like my mom makes it, we do only farmer's cheese, potato, sometimes onion, sometimes cream cheese. Fun fact, cream cheese is really, really good in this. So highly recommend trying that out if you want. But yeah, we normally do just farmer's cheese, potato, salt and pepper, onion. There's also different kinds of fillings. You can do potato and sauerkraut. It's like the sauerkraut we'll usually like make ourselves. Add carrots to it. Carrots is a really good flavor in there. So it's just potato, sauerkraut with carrot. You usually cook down the sauerkraut a little bit to kind of remove that like really like fresh vinegary flavor, just like minimize that a little bit. And that's really, really good during the holidays, especially when there's a holiday towards like Christmas time called Sviatý Večer, which means like Holy Night. That's kind of something that we do like shortly after Christmas to like celebrate the birth of Jesus and the presentation or visitation of Jesus to like the Holy Temple. So yeah, that during that holiday especially, and during a few other winter holidays, the meal, like the seasonal meal, is all vegetarian. So well, not vegetarian, but like at least not meat. So it's like pescatarian. So there'll be like fish, like this like salted brine fish called oseladits, which is like a pickled herring. Me personally, I don't really like it, but a lot of my family does, and so they'll do that. Borscht, which is a Ukrainian beet soup, that's also very popular in a lot of other Slavic countries. Pierogi, like the pierogi, but we'll do either potato and cheese or the what's the word? Potato and like sauerkraut. So that's kind of like what I would pair with it if you're looking to get good, like a whole like meal going. We can do like pierogi and then like a side of borscht. Both of those are like super, super good together. So yeah, that'd be a nice like follow-up dish if you guys are looking to further explore Ukrainian cuisine. Real quick, I wanted to show you guys what I was doing over here. I kind of mixed up the onions a little bit. They're getting a little bit of color, so you're kind of aiming for like something kind of like that, but like all over. So it's gonna take a minute, but yeah. 1 second. There we go. Okay, so filling is nice and mixed. Now we can kind of move over to rolling out the dough and forming them. This is the fun part. Okay, so you kind of want your station cleared a little bit. I have like this nice towel on my like little apron. If you're cooking, I highly recommend this technique of tying the apron in the front. That way it's also easier. And then it gives you like this like nice like little bar where you can hang your towel on. So I'm gonna wipe off the counter a little bit, get it nice and clean. And you want a nice big flat surface for rolling out the dough. So I'm gonna grab some more of this flour and flour the surface. There we go. When I'm like flouring, I kind of like to hold it like this and then like do like a little like side swipe. Gets the flour like nice and spread out pretty easily. There you go. So nice floured surface. I'm gonna save the flour out, keep it out. Makes it easy to use if you need it further. So super sticky dough going on the flour counter. And we're gonna knead it for a little bit before we roll it out. So a little bit more flour over the top. Kind of spread it out. Bam, bam, bam. Bam, bam, bam. So do a little bit of kneading. I like to push it out, bring it in, keep going, keep moving the dough. And that's kind of how you knead. I look kind of, I don't know if you guys know, but I kind of look like binging with Babish, where like my head's like not in camera roll. Funny.
You know, I was just thinking about that.
Yeah.
It's funny that you say that. I
Yeah.
also, since you mentioned borscht, that lib guide that I had mentioned in the beginning, if anyone's interested, I believe they have a recipe on that lib guide on Ukrainian cuisine for borscht as well.
Make sure you don't burn your onions. These guys are like getting a little too brown for my liking. So don't do as I'm doing. Take your time with it. It might take like upwards of like 30 minutes sometimes if you're doing a really big batch, but we're gonna keep going, getting them as brown as we can in the time period that we have. We have about 20 more minutes, so we should be good to go. Just probably getting right on time at 11. But dough is looking good. It's kind of smooth, not very like kind of more smooth rather than shaggy now. And so we can roll it out. Get a little more flour there. Bam, bam, bam. Okay. So for rolling it out, I'm a college student, so I have a lot of bottles of wine that I have. I highly recommend that if you're like on a budget, don't have a rolling pin. You can always use a bottle of wine. That's something that most people probably have nowadays. So that's what I'm going to be using, keeping it close to home. I'll be right back. Bam. So wine of choice today is Cooper Hawk's Spice Chest Red Blend. I don't know if you guys, I don't think there's any like Cooper Hawks near here, but this bottle of wine is really nice. And so yeah, when I'm rolling out a dough, I'll start from like the center, roll it outward, kind of going in a circular motion. Like every so often I'll turn the dough, kind of going like that. You want the dough to be pretty thin, as thin as you can kind of get it. Using a rolling pin or using a bottle kind of gets you there. Little like an actual rolling pin might be a little bit easier. Yeah, but we make do. So whenever you're rolling stuff out, you want to use plenty of flour. Kind of make sure that it's nice and floured so nothing sticks, especially the rolling pin. That can be kind of a hassle, but keep rolling it out as best as you can, getting it thin. Bam, bam. And so yeah, so as I'm doing this, this is a good opportunity to talk a little bit more about other fillings. Some people might be wondering, like, hey, like, can I put like meat in the filling? You absolutely can. Sometimes we'll do like another form of pierogi called vushke, which is like or pelimeni. Pelimeni is like kind of a different shape pierogi. You use like this metal like frame, and that's called a pelimenitsa, which is used for forming them. You kind of like put your sheet of dough on it, flatten it out, add the like meat filling, add another layer of dough, and then like you kind of like can use a rolling pin to press them, press like the bottom and top dough together. That's really, really good. It's like a slightly different version. It's not like hand crimped like these will be. But yeah, you can absolutely add meat to the filling. Typically we'll use like pork or beef for that, or like a nice blend of the two. That's really, really delicious. Or if you're looking for a dessert pierogi, a lot of fruit fillings can be used. The main ones are like sour cherry or blueberry. Both of those are like super, super good. Highly, highly, highly recommend those if you're looking for like a dessert pierogi.
We did
So yeah.
just have someone in the chat that say that they love pierogi with sour cherries, and they cook them in their country during the summer. They're learning how to learn the potatoes and onions with you today.
Ooh, very nice. Yeah. So
Love that.
those are both really, really good. Periodically mix the onion. Make sure not to burn them. And yeah. I'm gonna lower the heat on them a little bit. So at the beginning of the onions, you can kind of really go to town on the heat. You can use like medium high or high even. Kind of like during the part when you're like getting the moisture cooked out of them. But once all that liquid is kind of like gone and evaporated, you might want to like lower the heat a little bit to like medium or medium low even, for them to not burn and be able to like get nice and golden. Also, when you're cooking them, you want to use a good amount of oil. Don't be afraid of oil when you're making them. That oil will not only help brown them faster, but also really help with getting a lot of that flavor. So that onion oil is like really, really delicious. Definitely want to keep all of that, use all of it, and yeah. So this dough is looking pretty dang good, nice and thin. You kind of want it like, if I had to guess, like a quarter of an inch to half an inch. I don't know if that means anything to you guys, but like about that thick. So I'd say that looks good. Get one more layer of flour going, just so it doesn't stick when you're cutting them out. So going back to the wine, another thing that my mom uses traditionally is a wine glass to punch out the rounds of like dumpling wrapper. So I'm gonna use that. I'll be right back. I'm gonna get a glass of wine. Voila. It's too early for me to be drinking, but I would if I could. I'm 21, by the way. Don't drink underage. I know we're in college. Don't do it. I have to say that. Also, real quick, before we keep going, I want to show you the onions. Those look incredible. They're getting very close to being done. Getting a lot of good color on them. So keep them going. Don't stop. You want to get them very nice. Honestly, I might add a little bit of oil just for shits and giggles. I don't know if I'm allowed to swear, but yeah. There we go. Bam, a little bit more oil.
I bet
No
your
one ever
kitchen
got hurt.
smells great right now. Like, you know, the onions are going.
Abso-freaking-lutely. Very cool. Okay, so wine glass, hold it upside down, kind of have like a claw motion, kind of like that maybe, and then go to town. Be very careful because it's like depending on the wine glass, it can be very thin. You definitely want to be sure that you're holding it safely, but not like too strong. Fun story. After winter break last year, I was really in the mood for making pierogi. I asked my mom, and she gave me a bunch of the farmer's cheese. And she was like, "Okay, you think you know how to make it?" And I was like, "Hell yeah, I do." And so I started punching them out using a wine glass. The reason why I say like some wine glasses are thin, the one I was using was like super, super thin. And as I was punching them out, I was like really, really going to town on it, like using my full like strength. And as I was punching one out, I like squeeze the wine glass and shatter it in my hand. And so there's like shattered glass everywhere in my hand, in the dough, all over the kitchen. It's a horrible nightmare. There's like blood everywhere. It was really, really graphic. I like got freaked out.
Oh
So
my gosh.
yeah, I have like scars and everything, but it's a cool story and it's a good life lesson to be careful when you're cooking. Things are sharp, things are scary, things are hot, but if you're safe about it, you will not get hurt like I did. Um, but if you do eventually cook for long enough, you might get like small cuts and stuff, but those are avoidable. Don't be afraid to cook because things can be scary. Um, you can stay safe in the kitchen. So, kind of want to show you guys what the dumpling looks like. That's not a great example, but kind of like that. Nice and circular. It's going to be really, really good. They look absolutely fire. For the sake of time, I'm going to kind of get started on actually filling them. Running low on time. I'm going to mix the onions one last time and then get going on these. So, you got the filling here. You got your dough round here. You take a teaspoon. I got teaspoon right here. Teaspoon. Get like about a small scoop of that, kind of like so. Not too much, maybe like a tablespoon. I'll usually just use a spoon. You take your dough, kind of like toss it between your hands, get the flour off of it. Take the spoon, get it on there. You can form it into a circle, and then take the palm of your hand, flatten it out, get it nice and flat, spread it out, kind of like so. And then take the two sides, fold them in half. So you got like that, like so. And then working from the top center, you pinch with front and back and go from center to one side, pinching it closed like that, and then flip it over if you want, and then seal it on the other side. you really want to make sure that you're pinching very like tightly and gently as well to make sure it's like sealed fully. And there you go, one pierogi or one pirich. So pierogi is like plural because it's got an I at the end. If you're talking about one singular one, it's one pirich. But who the hell's eating one pirich? No one. I always have like at least 8 to 10. If I'm really hungry, it'll be like upwards of 12. Um, they're just that damn good. So
I was
keep
going to
going at
ask you
them.
how many this recipe makes if you had to guess about how many.
Let me think. This is gonna make quite a bit. I'd say like at least 60 to 80, depending on how much you fill them. Um, yeah. So if you're looking to make a big portion, I highly recommend. If you're wanting to do like a smaller portion, you can do like half the recipe, but for one full recipe, it should make about like 60 to 80 pierogi. And so yeah, keep flattening them out, keep folding them and pinching them closed. For this recipe, I'm gonna just do one batch to show you guys kind of how they look. So I'm gonna maybe do like 8 of them, and then we can toss them in the water. And then yeah, this is a really fun thing to do with like your friends and family during the holidays. My mom, my grandma, my brother, and I will always come together during the holidays and work on these together. You can each get like your own spoon, your own bowl of filling, and kind of like go at it together. It's really, really fun. That's how like we like to spend our family time together, like during the holidays, like cooking. My brother and I especially, we love to cook together, and so we'll be doing this like for Thanksgiving, for Christmas, for Easter. Pretty much every holiday has pierogi in Ukrainian culture, pretty much all the time. This is not just like something you can eat like during the winter. Like someone was saying in chat, they had the cherry version with them for like summertime. That'd be a great thing to do seasonally. I like when I'm cooking, I like to use seasonal ingredients, stuff like asparagus in the spring or tomatoes during the summer. Try to use like seasonal, fresh, local ingredients if you can when you're cooking. It makes your food taste a lot better. In town locally, a really good place to get like local ingredients would be Harvest Market. It's kind of bougie. It's a little bit fancier. If you are from like the Chicagoland area or like anywhere like near a big city, it's kind of like a Whole Foods, but they do a lot of local farm produce, which is really, really nice. Highly recommend checking them out. They also have a good like in-store like hot bar, like restaurant. So if you're looking to grab a lunch, highly recommend checking that place out. You'd also be able to find the cheese, the farmer's cheese there, if that's something you're looking to do. If you can't find it or you don't want to try it out, I highly recommend getting like cheddar cheese or like a nice blend of cheddar, Monterey Jack, any kind of like nice like melting cheese would be good. And so yeah, onions looking really, really good. Basically done. These are about to be done filling. How many I got? 4, 8. Okay. Oh, when you're boiling them, you kind of want to make sure that you do like about like 8 to 10 at a time. Don't overcrowd the pot because otherwise it's going to drop the water temperature a lot, and they're gonna take. I'm doing the show right now, dog. It's cool as hell. Nah, you're good. You're good. Don't even trip. Yeah. I live with a bunch of roommates, and one of them is going to class right now, so they're asking how the show's going. Yeah. So here's the pot with dumplings. You can't really see them because of like the water, but when you actually throw them in the water, they'll like what's the word? Sink to the bottom, and as the dough cooks, as the filling cooks, it's gonna float to the surface. You want to let the dumplings float at the surface for like 1 to 2 minutes, and then that's when you can pull them out. That's how my mom does it. She doesn't really use time. She rather like lets the dumplings kind of tell her when they're ready. You really want to like look and observe your food. Sometimes in a recipe when it says like, oh, do this for like 5 minutes. It could be 5 minutes with their oven, their stove. It could be 10 or even less, or like 3 minutes for your stove. So it takes a lot of like trial and error and kind of seeing what works best for your kitchen and your stove and equipment. So don't trust all the timers. But for stuff in the oven, that can usually be like trusted. But at the same time, you also want to like test it. Like if you're baking a cake, you want to use a toothpick and see if it like comes out clean when you stick it in. But yeah. So bam, bam, bam. Onions look amazing. I would say these are pretty much ready. So see, you have like a few like dark spots like that or like this. Typically, you'd want to like kind of try to avoid that just because it's like a little bit darker of a flavor, but they look really good. And if anything, it adds more flavor. Dumplings are going. Filling's kind of going. I'm gonna set this aside for the sake of time, and we can kind of, bam, we can kind of get a plate going, so that we can have final service. Bam, bam. I have these really wonderful plates that my roommate, the one who just actually left the class, his grandma got these for us. They're very, very wonderful. These are like the fine china, like the nicest plates that we have. So I'll be serving the pierogi on this. So yeah, I'm gonna set that aside. For toppings and how to serve them, I highly recommend sour cream. That is a must. Like, do not eat them without it. Like, I will come find you and hurt you, like with love. But try to use sour cream is kind of a must. Target sells it, this brand. If you're a real OG, you're gonna get Daisy sour cream, kind of the goat. Highly recommend getting that. Even better than that is like Ukrainian smetana or sour cream. It's a lot different from like American commercial stuff because it's a lot looser and more sour. That's stuff that you basically won't be able to find anywhere here unless like you go to like an international market. But a good substitute for that is Mexican crema. That is pretty similar actually. It's like the same kind of like fluidity or like thickness, and that's a really good substitute if you're looking to try to mimic it as close as possible. But regular sour cream works. Also, I have some of this bacon that I fried yesterday. It's really, really good. Highly, highly recommend bacon as well. Depending on who's cooking it, some people will add bacon, some people won't. Some people will add onions, some people won't. I like all of it, so I'll do sour cream, bacon, and onions. But yeah. So dumplings are going. You kind of want to give them a good mix halfway through cooking so that they don't stick to the bottom. Also, so a few tips for the recipe. When you're boiling the potatoes, you'll know that they're done when you take a spoon. You have a spoon and a fork. You'll scoop like one chunk of potato out, and you'll stab it with a fork. If the fork goes through the potato like easily and it like pierces like all the way through, and there's not a lot of resistance, that's how you know the potatoes are done. Don't overcook them because they'll get waterlogged, and they will get like too wet and mushy, and so when you're making the filling, it's gonna be too wet. So avoid that. For the dough, the recipe as written is like really good. You don't need to change it at all. Just make sure you flour the counter and flour the surface when you're rolling it out. Roll it thin. And yeah, for the bacon, so the bacon and potatoes I did off camera because they take a long time, but if you follow the written recipe, it's pretty clear and gives you a good set of like guidelines for that. When you're doing the bacon, I like to do them in the oven. You can also fry them in a pan if you want, but the oven makes it easier and you can do a big batch of it all at the same time and it comes out even. So when I was making it yesterday, I did 400 degrees Fahrenheit for 24 minutes, 12 on each side. Depending on your oven and how hot it gets, you might need to do it for shorter or longer, but 400 degrees for 24 minutes was good for me. And also depending on how crispy you want it. So that's also like a factor to consider. Onions take a long time, but they're really easy to do. And then for boiling, it's just boiling. Oh, nice. So these guys are floating now. So that's kind of what you want to see when you're doing them. Give them like an extra minute. I'm gonna set like a timer. Like right now we're at 10:58, so around that time. Also, the little piece of onion, don't even worry about that. But yeah, I know I'm going like right to the time, but everything is like pretty much good to go. So in the meantime, I'm gonna get the bacon, the sour cream all on the plate, make it look nice. Ooh, you guys are in for a freaking treat. I have like a super secret, like this is like not no one talks about this because it's like real only real OGs. Okay. So let me see if I can find it. That's the thing. Oh god damn it. Wait. Oh, of course. The moment I start talking about it, it like starts hiding. Ah, oh goodness. You guys are seeing me struggle right now. This is story of my life for real.
While you're looking for whatever that is, you do have someone in the chat who said absolutely, I think it was phrased wonderfully, that you are so much fun to watch while you're cooking. And just like I believe Nada, I could also smell the frying of the onions right here. They also say that it's not just cooking pierogi, it is about culture and minimalism, deculturing, and fun facts from a cool engineer. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. That means like the whole world to me. Okay. Uh ah okay, I can't find it, but if you're looking for some really cool flavor in your pierogi, you can add some vegeta. It's this seasoning mix that's like Slavic. I wrote it out in the chat, vegeta. It's like this all-purpose like vegetable seasoning. It's kind of like a nice like salt. Um, really good. Highly recommend if you can. I like to add that. So let me show you guys. So right now I have like a nice dollop of sour cream. When I'm eating my pierogi, I'll season it a little bit with like vegeta on the sour cream itself. So it's like nice and salty and flavorful. I can't find it. I know I have it. I just can't find it. My kitchen is like kind of a mess, low key, but yeah. So if you have that or you can find it, it's mostly commonly found in like um international markets, Eastern European markets. Yeah, really delicious. Can't find it in this moment, so we'll just go on without it. But I wanted to tell you guys because I love y'all, and I think it's like really good. So if you can or want to, try it out. Real pro move. But there you go. So I like to transfer all of the pierogi to a bowl and then add a little bit of butter. That way it's kind of easy to like have them not stick to each other. And when you're making a big batch, it kind of makes it so that you can put them in a big like baking sheet or like like what's called like baking dish and store them easily. So like I'll give it like a nice mix, like side to side, and then kind of do like a little toss. Oh yeah, getting height. Woo. Okay, so dumplings are pierogi are done. I'll transfer them to a plate. Oh my god, this looks. I can't. I shouldn't swear, but it looks really good. Really good. Okay, so a little bit of bacon on the side. Bam. And we have final plate. Y'all are gonna be so mad. Y'all are gonna be so mad you can't have this right now. But if you make them, there you go. So voila, that is a plate of pierogi at its finest. They're nice and glossy. They look freaking amazing. And so I'm gonna try it. Hopefully you guys make the recipe so you guys can try it as well. Where's my
Would
phone?
you
There
do
we
us
go.
the honor of a taste test since we can't have a bite? Would you? They're probably hot right now. Sorry.
Absolutely. They're really good when they're like just piping hot. Make sure you blow on it. Mm,
Jealous.
so
Thank
good.
you so
So
much.
freaking good. Okay. So that's how you make pierogi. Highly recommend checking it out. Oh shit. I almost forgot the onions. Hold up. My bad, everyone. I spent all this
Big
time making onions.
onions.
Almost forgot them. But
Oh, and Mike in the chat asked if they were ever served with other sauces like cheese sauce. Oh, that looks
um
great.
yeah. So for like other sauces or condiments, typically we just do sour cream. If you want to be a little bit adventurous and untraditional, I think a cheese sauce would be kind of cool. I've never seen it like that, so that's kind of like doing your own thing, your own spin on it. But try it out. I don't know. I think it might be cool. Personally, that's not
Awesome.
traditional, but I am a big proponent of being adventurous. So it's okay sometimes to like steer away from tradition and try your own thing.
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful suggestion. I love all the thoughts too. Thank you all for joining us. That was really so much fun to watch the demonstration from from you, Dmytro. And I will be also sending out the link for this recording when it is available on our YouTube. In addition, I will be copying the recipe, the written recipe for everyone to try making it yourself. Again, we're going into fall break. You've got some time with family, friends, or you want to make them all for yourself, all 60 to 80, feel free. So otherwise, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and you will be contacted over email for that recording.
Дякую дуже. Ну, це все для мене. Я дуже дякую, що ви всі прийшли. I was just basically saying, like, thank you all for coming. It was great having you here. A little bit of Ukrainian at the end. Прошу, що я вам зробив пироги. Дякую, що ви всі прийшли. До побачення.
Thank you very much, Dmitry. It was delicious and wonderful. I'm from
Дякую.
Tajikistan.